Welcome, everyone. So glad to have you all joining us. This is a very special lunch and learn, and it is entitled Flower Power. It is an art-based meditation with Dr. Fyre Jean Graveline and Life as Medicine. And we have deep gratitude to Grandmother Louisa, who is going to open and close for us, as well as Alana Lee, who is going to be facilitating. This educational session, whether you're joining us live or you're joining us through our YouTube channel, can be used for either your mandatory vicarious trauma professional development or for your mandatory truth and reconciliation professional development, or it can count towards formal professional development hours in general. And with that, I want to begin with a land acknowledgement, and I would like to invite you to join with me in the chat. If you look at the bottom right, you will see a link, placenames.mapdev.ca. That is a website that we like to use because it's interactive. It helps you zero in on the exact village or town where you are located so that you can learn the correct Indigenous name for the colonial town name that you are perhaps more accustomed to using. It also has a lovely feature that helps you learn to pronounce it as we all begin to unlearn and relearn. So I invite you to join in the chat and specifically say where you are joining us from. And I would like to begin by acknowledging that I am speaking from Unama'ki. This is located on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, whose inherent rights were recognized in the peace and friendship treaties that were signed with the Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, and Passamaquoddy peoples from 1725 to 1779. This series of treaties did not surrender Indigenous land, resources, or sovereignty to the British Empire, but instead established rules for an ongoing relationship between nations. The treaties were later reaffirmed by Canada in Section 35 of the Constitution Act in 1982, and they remain active to this day. Let us take this time to pause in reflection and gratitude for the land where we live and work. The Nova Scotia College of Social Workers commits to translating this acknowledgement into action by seeking to implement the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action, especially those regarding education. We commit to doing what we can, to becoming better treaty partners. We commit to learning and to unlearning. Let us take this moment to pause in gratitude for all who have and continue to heroically care and advocate for this beautiful land. May we join them in this sacred work. Let us ground ourselves in the wisdom of the land-based Mi'kmaq teachings and values that we must all begin to learn. Let us work to decolonize ourselves, our practice, and this community that we share by working for justice for all living beings as an expression of our gratitude for being here. Let us take a deep breath and recenter ourselves away from the violent ways colonization fills our world and fills us. Let us take a deep breath and work on letting go of the unconscious bias that is everywhere, inside and out. May our session today lead us to be in right relationship with this land and with one another. Ulalu. When we acknowledge the land, we must also begin to acknowledge the wisdom of this planet and align ourselves with its truths. Today, with our arts-based meditation and Life as Medicine, we have the ability to begin to do that. So I'm so very grateful to Grandmother Louisa and Alana Lee, who I am going to now spotlight so that they can continue and introduce themselves and share a little bit more about the amazing work that they all are doing.
Anine, Gwe, hello, welcome everybody. My name is Alana Lee. I'm joining you today from the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. I am in Millbrook First Nation. I am originally from Rolling River First Nation, Manitoba, Treaty 4. Thank you for that beautiful land acknowledgement. Just want to say thank you so much for that. So we're going to get right into it here. So I'd like to begin by, I'm also a social worker as well and a collaborator with Life is Medicine. So a little bit about Life is Medicine. What do we do? So Life is Medicine is a circle of Indigenous arts. So a circle of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, allies, creative and expressive arts therapists, social workers, community workers who are envisioning and enacting, revitalizing and promoting the healing arts. We promote transformative healing arts by and for and with Indigenous peoples and our allies through education, social advocacy, activism, and relational, experiential, creative experiences. With over 50 years of experience, our leadership team is eager to lead the way for future generations to bring healing arts to our communities in ways that honor Indigenous knowledge, our knowledge keepers, and land-based practices. So Life is Medicine is currently an ongoing process to become accredited to offer more formalized trainings Indigenous healing arts. So stay tuned for that. With no further ado, I would like to welcome Grandmother Louisa, who will be starting us off in a good way with an opening prayer, and she will provide an introduction. Following the opening prayer, Fyre so Dr. Graveline, I should have started with that, is unable to join us today formally because she did have some family medical emergencies. She did put together a great video for us, so she will be taking us through the flower power exercise. So she is here in spirit and in video. So with no further ado, Louisa.
Hi. This is the host. Okay, I got things in front of my screen here. Okay, I hope everybody can hear me. I'm totally illiterate with this kind of stuff.
You are doing great. You are doing totally great.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you. I want to begin with acknowledging the land that I'm on. I'm currently on the Mi'kmaq territory. I'm in Stratford, Prince Edward Island. I am from the Swampy Cree Nation from Territory 5 in Manitoba. I am a retired palliative care nurse. I just completed the 3-year program with Life is Medicine, the Indigenized Art Therapy and Expressive Art Therapy program, and just beginning my work into that wonderful space. And I want to acknowledge the importance, first of all, of this program, Life is Medicine. First of all, our medicine wheel, we follow the medicine wheel, and the medicine wheel is 4 components, as all medicine wheels are, and life are the components, my life. So my lived experience, my Indigenous experience, my feminine experience, and my ecological experience. That was what guided us through Life is Medicine. And the reason I want to mention it now, especially to the audience that is here, because I have a very huge experience and background in being a child of the foster care system, and how it was so difficult for me, as for most that are being separated from family. But the main reason is this program, Life is Medicine, that 3 years, helped me to finally begin to heal those spaces that were held within my body as a young child. And I had much healing in that 3 years. And that's the first time in my life when I began that, 67 years old, was the first time that I ever experienced a way of learning and healing that was specifically for me. It floated within my human form, and it healed so much within me, and I continue to evolve and heal. So that was very important for me to say. The part now that I will do is my part here is to open our space in a way that we have done in the whole 3 years that we began this program. Our life is our medicine, and the medicine begins with our ceremonies. So I bring in the four medicines, and that's how I begin every art therapy situation that I'm in. If I'm with an individual and they don't use the medicines, then I will do that on my own before, and I will close with that. And if they are, then the medicine is there for us to use. But the important this was so important for us in our training in Life as Medicine, was we always begin with ceremony. And I'll share with you now a prayer that I use when I go into my space of healing and working with individuals and myself for my own self-care of doing art therapy. So I want to begin by just cleansing myself as I begin this ceremony. And many of you may know this, but I will do that anyways. So I cleanse my eyes that I may see the good things today. And I cleanse my ears, especially so that I can hear the good things today. And my mouth, that I may speak the things that are good and healing. And then I cleanse all over me, so that anything that I'm carrying before I came here is not here to interfere with our process. And I begin my prayer. Pinisuak nagawan chikiyo nitsinigasin. Uteni nos chi pinisuak aninuak nikakinaw niwahu maganak. All my relations. I begin, Creator, to offer my words of gratitude and prayer for this day, this gift of life that we have received. And I begin in the eastern direction. And in my teachings of the Swampy Cree, we begin in the eastern directions and we pray for all women that are struggling with all the difficulties of this Western way of living, with the diseases that we have, with the difficulties we have, with the residual spaces of the pains and sufferings that we carry from our ancestral ways. I offer prayers for all women, and especially, and for you, if there's anyone in your space right now that you want to offer prayers for, in women, please do so at this time. And I offer prayers now for my personal family, where there are huge struggles happening at this time. I give gratitude to the eagle who carries my prayers. Now I go to the southern direction, and here I'm going to offer prayers to my ancestors and for the men. I'm going to give prayers, and I ask that the wolf, the spirit of the wolf and the spirit of the thunderbirds are here to carry my prayers. In our teachings, we're told that the ancestors just sit and wait at these doors to be opened. They can only be opened by us asking for help, that they can teach us and help us in anything that we're going through. And I ask for my ancestors to be here with my family today. And I ask that all the good things that are possible in healing, that they happen. And also to the spirit of the thunderbird and the clearing of spaces that will happen during this time. And I give gratitude for that. And I turn to the west, to the western door, and there, Muskwa, the great bears, sit in this direction. And we offer prayers for all of Earth Mother and all of the plants and that heal us and feed us, for the four-leggeds, the two-leggeds, for the winged, for the water-finned ones, for the air, for the earth, for the fire, and for the water. We give gratitude for all the gifts of all our relations. And we thank you for all the medicines. When we have issues that we're dealing with and we need specific medicine, the bears carry our medicine, and we can go there and we can ask for that medicine. Hi. And I turn now to the northern direction. And this is where all the white spirits are, the white spirits that we can call on for all of our prayers. And this is the place where I go when I want to ask for forgiveness for anything that I have done intentionally or unintentionally to harm somebody. But I also go there to give gratitude for all the gifts that have been given to me by Creator. We thank the spirits of the cosmos. We thank the spirits that are below us. And then we thank the spirits of our own hearts. And we give gratitude again for this beautiful day. Hi. Thank you. I'm done. Hi.
Gwedge, grandmother, Louisa.
So thank you so very much. I am going to now share my screen so that we can hear the meditation that is going to be led by Dr. Fyre Jean Graveline. And so we will begin. Hold on a second. I'm going to stop share for a second and excuse me for the technical issue. Everything is fine. We will, let me just take another minute to reconnect with that. And I want to take this moment to really give appreciation for that beautiful grounding prayer. So I'm going to just reset our uploaded video, and I will now screen share a second time. My apologies. Colonialism teaches us to be afraid of mistakes and imperfection, but we are human. And instead of letting shame dictate, let us take this opportunity to learn and heal.
Greetings. My name is Fyre Jean Graveline, she who keeps fire in the lake, or Wape Musquatchie. I come to you today on this Zoom recording as I've been called away to a family health crisis. But I wish to share these teachings with you, especially in this time of October and just the recent time of the September 30th Orange Shirt Day. And I wanted to bring some medicine to you that I've been working with. Many of you remember my earlier work, Circle Works, Transforming Neurocentric Consciousness, and I will be drawing some from that book, as well as my most recent writings from Life as Medicine, the model that I'm currently working with to integrate Indigenous healing arts into all of the work that I'm doing for transformation, social change, and healing of our people across the nation, but also across the world. So I want to offer today the Flower Power Hearts Meditation, which is a time when we're going to just kind of land in our bodies and land within ourselves and contemplate what is it that we can do? What is it that we can bring? What actions make the most sense for us? Each within our own social location to bring forth at this time, at this historical time, where we are calling for reconciliation And we're also calling for a resurgence of cultural teachings, not only for Indigenous peoples, but how can the rest of society step up and begin to work more closely with our teachings with a concerted effort to help save humanity from extinction at this time on Earth Mother. That's a primary concern that I have right now, and many of us share. So we're going to begin with an art-based experiential, and I just encourage you to be as simple or as complex as you want in this flower power exercise. You could just be breathing, you could be making motions with your hands, you could be making noises or vocables with your mouth, or you can use a pen and a paper, a pencil and a paper, or some colors, some markers, and just go with the movement and the flow. And it's fun to have actually a physical reproduction from the event so that you have something to hold on to and refer back to. So I encourage you to dig in and use art materials if you have some present. So I'm going to give a couple of examples of the process before we start, just to give you a little insight. And I'm going to share just a few early examples of the work that I've done with it. So here's one early example where I placed myself in the center as a heart. And then we're just going to circle around ourselves with some breathing and some thinking, and I'll offer some explorations there. And then we're going to loop down to Earth Mother down here, connecting and grounding ourselves to Earth Mother. We're going to reach up to Sky World, to Moon and stars, and then loop back down around ourselves. We're going to again loop out this way to the left for our ancestors and recognize our ancestors there. We're going to loop to the right side, and we're going to loop to our descendants and back to ourselves. And then we're going to do the 4 doors, the eastern door, the mental, and back to ourselves, the southern door, the spiritual, and back to ourselves, the western door, the water or the emotional, back to ourselves, and then up to the north door, the physical, and back to ourselves. And then once we do the 4 doors, we're going to come around with a spiral, spiraling around all of the doors, recognizing that they are all interconnected. And how do we bring all of that energy as we get to the outer edge of the spiral? Then we'll spiral back in, bringing all that energy back in to ourselves at the core. So that's the basic. And with this one, I just use very simple markers. I wrote a few words in, which you're welcome to do, and kept it simple. This one is a little bit more specific. We were doing a workshop on empowering girls and women. And so this one was done particularly about how do I empower my body? And so it started, it still has lots of room for development, but that's another version. Here's one where I didn't work with words at all. I just did the flower power, myself as the heart, loving Earth Mother. And then I just used the energy of the colors spiraling in and out to create the flower power there. And then finally, this one also for a rematriation gathering. And depending on if we have time, I wrote a poem following, and then I added the poem in on the spiral. And so you can see the words are a poem spiraling out. So that's also possible. And so I just want us to kind of start getting ready individually. Hopefully you've gathered some materials or not. And we're going to begin just landing in our own bodies right now with our breath. It's hard for me to land sometimes. So when I am having trouble finding my breath, I'll often just put my hands on my heart. And then I have a physical sensation when I breathe in of my heart, of my chest expanding, and that can be helpful. And so as I'm breathing in and landing in my heart, I'm going to put that first symbol in the center of my page. I'm going to put that heart or that woman symbol or that spiral or that infinity or that tree or whatever it is that pops into your mind right now as a symbol that would represent you in this moment that you wish to put at the center of your wheel. Some people might still be feeling the reverberations of Orange Shirt Day. Make it orange. Put that in the center of your meditation, and allow your meditation to be about what is it that I need to do? What is it that I can offer? And apply the meditation to truth and reconciliation, if you wish. So then as we're just relating to this core place of beingness, we're just breathing into our hearts, and we may breathe a color in here. And that may be the color that you choose. If you have a favorite color, you may choose to work with that because this represents you and the core of your being. So sometimes I might do spring green. Sometimes I might do pink and gold, red, orange, the fire colors. And this is me coming into this space and coming into this meditation. So now we have a symbol in the center, and we're beginning to circle around the symbol. And as we circle around the symbol, we're thinking about the circle as a symbol of wholeness and a symbol of completion. We're thinking about the medicine wheel if we're from that territory. And we're thinking, this is about my balance. This is about me coming in and feeling a sense of who I am in connection, in interdependence with all beings. And how can I be there right in this moment? And so I'm thinking about slowing my breath down. And so I'm acting on that. I'm just landing. We're just landing here in this space today, slowing our breath down, taking some time to be in the space. We're all very busy. There's a lot of chaos in the world. There's a lot of chaos for each of us in our families. How can we take this moment to just be present with this time that we are sharing together? So then as we're moving around, so we're circling around with these thoughts, we're circling around. And now I want you to, as I explained, loop down with a loop to touch Earth Mother. And then bring that back up to the center and circle around yourself. Reach down to Earth Mother, our bottom edge, and coming back up and circling around ourselves. Back down with a loop, coming back to circle around ourselves. And we're drawing the interconnection between ourselves and our Earth Mother, which has been so devastated. We have been so separated from Earth Mother. How can we regain our connection? How much time and how much energy are we spending sending our love and gratitude to Earth Mother? How much time and energy are we spending wanting Mother Earth to regenerate us, to go out into nature, to go out into the forest, to get energy from Earth Mother? And so we want to reconnect with Earth Mother in all the ways that we can. And we also want to be sending Earth Mother energy in these times of late capitalism and near extinction. How do we return to our early ancestors' lives, at least within our hearts, to connect more and more with Earth Mother and become more related again to her, to the trees, to all our relatives, the bugs, the bees, the birds, the plants, the winged ones. And so we're reaching to Earth Mother and we're connecting with her. She provides so generously for us. All the food we eat, our shelter, everything, including this technology, comes originally from the body of our Earth Mother. She has always given generously to us. And even as we sit here, I don't know where your feet are landing, my feet are landing on the ground, on Earth Mother's body, and I'm just knowing that she is holding me right now here. That if it wasn't for her constant pull of gravity, her holding us here, we'd be flying off into the stars. So even though we have harmed Earth Mother, perhaps irreparably, she still continues to give to us. And so that first loop is to honor all of Earth Mother. And then whenever we're ready, we bring that loop back up and we're looping around ourselves. And then we're going to journey up to Sky World and back to ourselves. And so as we loop up to Sky World, we're talking about Grandfather Sun, we're talking about Grandmother Moon, we're talking about our star relatives, we're talking about the Pleiadian star cluster, we're talking about the planets and the planetary alignments, the multiverse. How do we love and honor and express gratitude for all of those beings who, without their energies, we would have also a very different existence? And we are part of that larger cosmos. And how do we call upon our relatives from these realities as well? For my people up in the northern bush country, we very much look to the Northern Lights, who are very present for us there as our ancestors, and make many offerings and many prayers to them. How can we be closer to our relatives in the stars, to our Grandmother Moon, to our Grandfather Sun? And how have we become very disconnected also from these beings with all the various night lights that are always left on? There's many places where people can't even see because of pollution, like in China, don't even see the stars. And so how are we still connecting with the star nations? And how can we be more informed by these limitless powers that once were our navigation system, once were seen as our relatives? And so again, looping up and down. And if we feel inspired, we can always loop back down to Mother Earth and bring that energy back in. And so we're doing the first part of the flower. And then when we're ready, we're going to loop out to the outside edge on the left-hand side and back, looping around ourselves. And as we're making that loop to the outer edge, we are connecting with our ancestors. All of our beautiful ancestors, the amazing, resilient beings who came before us. And so for me, that would be my Indigenous ancestors from the Anishinaabe and from the Cree, the Métis, and also my French ancestors and my Orcadian ancestors. And how do I bring them all in as a blended spirit? And how do I recognize all of their gifts and all of their teachings as I'm sitting here? And so their gifts and their teachings are my DNA. They're my traits. They're how I look. They're how I behave. They're how I respond to trauma and what causes trauma in me. All of those are genetic inheritances. How I handle alcohol and drugs. What are my talents and my gifts? What are my resiliencies and my challenges? All that we have available to us to handle our day-to-day experiences of life, all are generated in the ancestral realm. And we can call on our ancestors anytime we need to assist us, because they came before us They have had these experiences and challenges or similar ones, and they can guide us in our day-to-day. And so we want to ask ourselves, am I reaching back to my ancestors? Who are they? And what can they bring to me in this time of change and transformation in my own life? And am I offering them the love and gratitude that they so deserve for handling the hardships and the challenges that they went through so that I could be born today? And so the ancestors are that left-hand side of our body. We bring that energy in, and we take a moment right now of silence to especially acknowledge our ancestors who were in Indian residential schools. Who were very much harmed there. And many died there. And many are still hurting significantly and passing that trauma down to the next generations and to ourselves. And so how do we love those harmed ones and accept that, yeah, they have been harmed, and intergenerationally they have passed that and are passing that to us. And it's our bundle to carry to heal. And so how do we acknowledge that? And we may have ancestors who worked in the schools. We may have ancestors who have been Christians and who have been the perpetrators of violence. What do we learn from them? And how is it part of our bundle to heal, to reconcile what has been done? For some like us as blended spirits, we may be reconciling with our Indigenous ancestors and with our colonial ancestors simultaneously in one body. So how do we do that? So we bring that energy of our ancestors in. And why are we bringing the ancestors in here? Because we are in this pivotal space of being the bridge, of being the third space between the ancestors and looping out to the right-hand side, our descendants. How do we express our love and gratitude for our descendants? And how do we acknowledge, for any of you who have been to the Fridays for Future marches through Extinction Rebellion, how do we acknowledge the world that we're leaving for our children in the generations to come? How do we take responsibility for the mess that we're leaving the generations to come? And how do we support them? Maybe there are biological descendants, like my daughter, who's struggling with cancer for the third time at 36 years old. That's her legacy. That's her inheritance. But she, like many other young people, are suffering cancers at very early ages because of the pollution on Earth Mother. We send her love and gratitude. We send love and gratitude to all our descendants, whether they're our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and for some, we have great-great-grandchildren already here. And our descendants are also all those that we've helped through systems as social workers. We work in many systems that are supposedly child caring systems, and we have maybe supported children. We stood in as foster parents. We've stood in as child care workers. We've stood in as loved beings when the child didn't feel love from others. And so whenever we stand in and we are another mother, or we are another father, or another parent, or a helper, or a guardian for a child, and we help them better their life, we become their ancestor, and they become our descendant. And so just reaching out to all descendants with love and gratitude and well wishes for the future, that they may receive what they need. And may our direct descendants receive what they need for housing, for food security, for connection to Earth Mother, for systems that are more functional than they are right now in their collapsing state. And let's just take a moment to also just think about all the descendants that died in the residential schools. The 215 found at Kamloops that started the Orange Shirt Day movement. And all of those that were lost during the 60s scoop, many who have not returned home yet, and all those that are still wandering alone in the current so-called child welfare or child caring systems and institutions. All those descendants need our love and support. And those systems are all overpopulated with Indigenous and BIPOC, transgendered, two-spirit people. How can we be better allies, better helpers, better ancestors for all the young people coming up into the world today? That's a crucial question within this meditation. And we now, circling back into the center, we can loop back to our ancestors if we feel we want their energy to help us with this question, or down to Earth Mother, or up to Sky Father. And then we're just looping around. Now we're going to head out to right between Sky Father and the descendants up in that corner, in the right-hand corner. We're going to loop up there and name the eastern door. We're going to loop up into that corner and bring the energy of air and breath into ourselves. And so here, as we loop around with energy and breath and air, we ask ourselves, are we stopping to breathe in our busy days and our busy lives? Are we recognizing breath as a cleansing energy for our minds? How busy is our mind, and what are we thinking about? And are we so rushed in our everyday world that we really don't even remember to breathe? And so if that's the case, let's not judge. Let's just stop right now and breathe. Here in this eastern door, we connect to the winged ones. And here outside on my porch, I hear my chickens, I hear the crows, I hear the blue jays, I hear the doves. But also we could honor the eagle here, the high flyer. And who are our guides of the air? Are there any guides that you work with that are from this doorway? And what can you learn from them as they soar, as they sing, as they flock together? How can we be more like birds? You hear the crow chatting there in the background. And so we appreciate our breath, and we feel our connection to everything to do with air. That might be the clouds, that might be the winds of change. And we ask, what is it that helps us clear our minds? Is it standing out in a brisk breeze? That always helps me. Or taking 10 long breaths. In the eastern door, we stop and wonder, what is most influencing my thought forms? Eurocentrism has influenced all of our mindsets, whether through missionization, as in my case in day school, or through Indian residential schooling, or through academia, our time in universities, or public schooling, or media, or magazines, or books. Many of us have come to understand Eurocentric thinking as common sense. And so how do we open our minds? How do we clear our minds and unlearn some of that so that we can be open to other ways of being, other ways of believing, other ways of belonging, other ways of becoming more connected again to Earth Mother? What are the ways in which, what are the mental things that I need to shed so that I can open myself to more Indigenous thought forms, let's say? Decolonial thinking. If we can be acculturated to hold dominant views, we can also be unacculturated. Awareness of that form of thinking is necessary to transition, to transform our thinking, all of our thinking. So we circle up and we circle around the eastern door and we come back to ourselves. And we take one more loop, giving love and gratitude to all the guides from the eastern door, to the air, to the breath, and to our minds, that we can think and we can be more free thinking. And then we loop down to the next corner, the south door, which is right there between the descendants and Earth Mother. And when we loop down to the south door, we begin to contemplate all forms of energy. So that could be fire, all forms of light. What sparks us? What brings us energy? What brings us happiness or glee? What inspires us? What rejuvenates us? Here we remember all the crawlers, the spiders, the bugs, the caterpillars, the snakes. When we think of the snakes, we think of shedding. And the south door is all about releasing. How can we release that outer skin that is no longer serving us like the snake and shed it so a nice, bright new skin can show itself? We can also turn to the birch for this, to the onion, right? All those to the cabbage, all those that have layers upon layers upon layers of growth within the tree, center core, layers and rings and rings and rings of growth. So we too, as humans, can learn energetically from this, that our trauma is multi-layered, and so is our healing. Our healing happens in layers. And another layer is only revealed once a layer is shed, is complete. And then the next layer happens. So what can we shed as we loop down to the door, the south door? What can we shed to make space for new, to prepare for change? When we're looping down to the south door, we wonder, what energy guides my life? Whose will, whose spark Who is influencing my choices, my life, my view of history? Which spiritual force, which culture is dominating my thinking? Because that will either fuel or spark your will for change. And I just want to also take this moment, seeing as we're so close to the TRC Day, just to comment about how much influence there has been of colonization on the spiritual practices of Indigenous people, and how important it is for us to restore those practices, to rejuvenate those practices, and come back into healing circles and healing ceremonies together. And so it's very important for us to honor that work and to honor that space as we do. So then we're circling around ourselves again. We can reach back to our ancestors if we want, loop up to our descendants, loop in any direction that we want to go to resource ourselves. And then we're going to loop down into the western door. So the corner of your page that is between the ancestors and the earth. And we're looping down there to the water. Water is life. Water is necessary, as is air and Earth Mother and energy for us to exist in this human form, in this physical form. So we feel the flow of the water as we move our color or our finger or whatever we're moving, our breath. And we think of all the ways that we love and express gratitude for the energy of the water. For water to drink, water to wash with, water that sustains us. Here we express love for the swimmers. All those ones who live in the water. What is beautiful about the flow of the energy of the water? Flowing over the rocks, smoothing the path, flowing in and out of the tidal pull. Water, the rock in the pond and the ripples out. There's so many learnings and teachings from the water. And we can have ceremony for water. We can have ceremony over our cup of tea by expressing love and gratitude for the water. In this direction, we are honoring our hearts, really. We're honoring our emotions, our emotional world. So, of course, we honor here our tears as the flow of our own water out of our bodies to connect with Earth Mother in the expression of our grief. Right? We may shed our tears. But we also honor all of the other emotions that come. Our fear, our deep love, our rage. All of the emotions need to be expressed. Not directed at each other, but expressed in loving circles, in loving relations together. As one of my elders says, we must be in touch with the flow of our own emotions. Love, anger, sorrow, joy, ecstasy. We cannot feel any of them in their full intensity unless we are willing to face them all. And so as we loop up to the western door, how do we express our feelings or repress our feelings? And that too is culturally conditioned. And at the recent ceremony we held for the TRC Day, I made offerings for tears, for how I lost my tears in mission school, where it was too frightening to cry, where people were harmed for crying. And so shutting them down. And how I'm learning now in my 60s to reclaim my tears. The power to feel is a gift. How do we feel in relation with Indigenous people? How do we feel in relation with our own ancestors, both colonial and Indigenous? How do we define our relatives? By blood? By community? By kinship structures? There are different definitions of family between Indigenous peoples and settlers. So who defines the family? Who defines the community? These are all important questions in the Western door. And when we're talking about feelings, because feelings are about having a sense of belonging and connection to some people, where we can feel some level of safety in sharing our deepest feelings, our understandings of truth in the Western door. And so how do we bring that energy in to ourselves? And how do we express our love and gratitude for our feelings, for water, for the swimmers, and for our relatives in that direction? And then we come back to the center. We can go in any direction that would be helpful to resource ourselves, just moving slowly. And then we're going to loop up to the north door, up in the corner between the upper sky world and the ancestors. There is our north door. And we start to think about our physical bodies here. And what is our physical journey? How connected are we to our bodies? Can we actually feel them? I know for me, as a multiple abuse survivor, I had to spend a lot of time trying to find my body and trying to love my body and to not think of my body as the enemy. So looping up. What have you learned about body love and body connection? And what have you learned about body disconnection? And as I'm working on my body, I always want to loop down to Earth Mother, because Earth Mother has always been my strongest connection to my body. She helps me ground and connect to my body. When I am present with Earth Mother, I am most present with my body, with the sights, the sounds, the smells, the textures, the tastes. When I think about the tastes in the north door, I think about food. And how much are we honoring our food? Are we praying about our food and thanking the plants and animals? Are we offering some of our food that we eat each day to feed our ancestors, to make commitments to our descendants, to honor Earth Mother, to honor Father Sky and Grandmother Moon? What is the nature of our relationship to food? Is it local? Is it organic? Is it spray-free? Is it that we're growing our own food and we're trying to be more food sustainable? Are we doing with less so that more food can be shared amongst more people? This is the Indigenous way. Make sure everyone in the community is fed. And in the North Door, we have to think right now of the huge discrepancies between those with wealth and even middle-class wealth, and those living on reserve and those living in poverty. Huge discrepancies around quality and quantity of food, quality and quantity of water, You know, like, how are we implicated in those relations of food security and food distribution and the housing crisis and the amount of space we're taking up in the world and the kind of space and the kind of material consumption that we're engaging in right now in this time of extractivism? Are there ways that we can cut our resource consumption so that less will need to be mined, less will need to be produced to bring us back into balance with Earth Mother? Because we're seriously out of balance. And a lot of that is physical, as much as emotional, as much as spiritual, as much as mental. And now we could just take a few breaths and we think about, with the physical world, we think about our animal guides. Who are our animal guides in the world? Is it buffalo, persevering in the face of near extinction? Is it wolf, surviving the howl at Grandmother Moon? Is it bear, symbolizing courage and strength? Is it moose, stamina, strength? Or any of the other four-leggeds? Maybe our power animal is our cat, our dog, the ones that we live with day in and day out. They too are the four-leggeds, and they too can assist us with our physical well-being. And so who do we call upon as our guides, as our medicine in the world? As we continue to loop in and out, and feeling that pull of gravity, acknowledging our capacity to see, to hear, to smell, to taste, our touch. We know that healing comes from integrating all of these aspects, all of these directions, all of these petals of the flower power, all come back to the center for our own balance. And how are we able to use all of our senses to heal? Learning through doing, learning through methods, healing through methods more rooted in the body, not just in the talk, but literally in the body. Art, ceremony, meditation, smudge, circle, crystals, feathers, drumming, singing, dancing, feasting. Indigenous teachings rooted and grounded in the land, in connection with Earth Mother, in connection with others in circle. How are you connected to these forms of healing? And are there other ways, other spaces that you can make space for this in your own practice or in your own life? When we get to the northern door and we think about the connection of all of these things together, we begin from starting at the center of ourselves, we begin to run a line, a spiral line outward, slowly heading towards the outer edges of our page. And we ask, what can I do to bring all of these elements into my own life and into my own practice? As Brook Medicine Eagle teaches, you can talk about something or think about it all day, but to make it real, you must do it. You must move and act. Unless we take action and ground our plans in the material world, in our daily lived experience, nothing will change. Our elders propose doing more than saying. We could take the energy from all these doorways, from Mother Earth and Father Sky, from our ancestors, our descendants, from the air, fire, water, the earth, and connecting all of these together. We're reaching out to understand what is our purpose in the larger world. What is our calling in the larger world, in the multiverse at this time? And once we get to the outer edge, we can then bring that learning back into the center again, moving another spiral, spiraling back in. Here I go, bringing the energy, bringing the teachings, bringing the messages back into the core of my being. And when I get to the core of my being, I'm just circling around. And now I'm just going to take some time, a little pause, maybe 5 minutes or so, to write a few words down on my page or flipping my page over that reflects what is my commitment to reconciliation. What is my commitment arising from these teachings today that I would like to bring into my own life, that I would like to bring into my own practice, and that I will share following this Lunch and Learn today, that I'll share with at least one other person in my life. And I want to express gratitude for the honor of presenting these teachings to you today, and look forward to connecting at a future time through our Life as Medicine programming. Just going to turn it back over to our beautiful team representing today. Bye for now. Sit in Oklahoma.
And so we're going to take a few moments as requested, and then we will let our co-facilitators guide us.
I'm all sorry. Are you going ahead, Alana?
You can go first, Grandmother Louise, if you wanted. I just wanted to just share a bit.
Yes,
about...
let's do that. Let's
okay.
do that.
Okay. This is why we always work in collaboration. So I just wanted to take some time just quickly to show, I went through the exercise with everybody else. And I kind of just wanted to describe mine because I think that it'll provide kind of a good example for what this kind of what this tool, what this exercise can bring to us, even me as a facilitator, me as a practicing social worker, the kind of trauma-based approach that it can take for myself. So when I started out in here, I started out with the circle as myself, and I don't know if you can see, there's me. I drew myself as a bit of a goddess, and so I got some pretty deadly wings going on there because what this is representing is I'm ready to fly. I'm ready to fly. So here I just put, you know, what is in the circle. So for me right now, this stage of my life, I am now a grandmother. So it's really important for my practices to be really, I'm really decolonizing in every way that I can. And so for me, you know, I am worthy. And so where did that thought come from? You know, that I'm assumed wrong. And I like to quote Rita Joe, because of my social location, because of who I am, I'm already assumed wrong. So I think that speaks volumes. And so that's me right there. Then when we go over, my apologies, to grounding, to Earth Mother. And, you know, how do we ground to Earth Mother? Mine is through ceremony, through food sovereignty. So growing my own food, making my own medicines, really engaging in plant medicine, and really looking at, which we'll go to the next door. So it's those ceremonies. And when we go up, so when I'm taking myself up here to, you know, the sky world, for me, it's Grandmother Moon and the divine feminine. So the moon ceremonies, and that's how I stay connected. Then we're looking over here, and we're looking to our ancestors. I put, you know, who I am. So I'm Anishinaabe, I'm Ojibwe, also Métis, French. I do have my DNA, my trauma, and this is my buffalo. Figure I'd have to let you know, because it doesn't look much like a buffalo, but it's honoring my ancestors. And why is food sovereignty so important to me? Well, because when I say that, I picture the piles up of bones of buffalo. So that's definitely affected my ancestry. Then we look over here, we go to the descendants. And so, you know, as a grandmother, this is really where my life is focusing on now. I do got my daughters and my stepdaughters, they're all in red. And then I got my son and my stepson, they're in blue. But then I got other little stick figures that are people here to show that, you know, just they're not only our descendants that we birth out of our bodies, but we have so many descendants. Like I live in a community where all the little children around, they are descendants. I consider they are my descendants. So the decisions that I make in my life, they ripple out and they affect all of our descendants. Now, when we go over, we'll start at the eastern door. So what is the influence of colonialism? Well, right here, for me right now, we have our sisters in the land, but we do have our first Manitoba, our first First Nations premier. So hopefully we're searching those landfills, but we are not garbage. We are not garbage. And so, you know, that is largely the Eurocentric view. And so who do we turn to for those teachings? Well, traditionally, you know, I have elders, but I also have white pine that I like to visit. So those where some of my most significant teachings do come from is from this one beautiful white pine. Now, when we go over and we're looking at the southern door, we look at, you know, the snakes shedding our old skins, kind of what does that mean? Well, this really goes back to our descendants, our ancestors and our descendants and our colonial history. So there are parts of me that react to my trauma. And sometimes those can be hate. I shared this in Armia's Tree, We as Forests, a gathering. Sometimes there are pieces of me that really aren't me. Those are informed by my trauma, but those come from my grandmother's experience at residential school. She was a survivor of Bertel Residential School in Manitoba. So what can I do to shed those so that those traumas aren't passed on to the next generations? Then when we're looking over at the water, the western door, how do you express those feelings? You know, reclaiming our tears. And so for me, it's being more gentle with our descendants, healing those lines of ancestral trauma. When we go up to the north, and right now you can see we all are in our own places at different times in our own healing. And right here, my hands got really red because I'm really angry about this. If you can't tell, I'm actually really angry. So I have to stay physically strong to protect myself and my daughters. Canada's not going to do it for me. Canada's citizens aren't going to do it for me. My sisters are laying in landfill. So that's how I feel about that. So I have to I have to stay physically strong to protect myself, to protect my daughters, and to protect our Indigenous sisters. That's where I'm at right now with that. So yeah, and our spirit animals. So I run to deal with, to express a lot of my trauma. And so people will often stop me and say, oh, you're tough. You're running, because I run with my I have 3 Cane Corsos, which are Italian Mastiffs, if you don't know. So I run with those 3 and a Dutch Shepherd in tag-along. But it's not because I'm tough. It's because I'm scared, because I know that I'm not going to receive the same protection as other Canadians. So in order to keep myself safe out there, to be releasing this trauma, to run, I need to protect myself. So I bring my dogs. So that's a piece of that. Oh, and Grandmother Moon, I gave her some braids. So I would just like to say thank you, and thank you to everybody for joining. And now if I'll hand it over to Grandmother Louisa, because I do see we are a bit over time.
Time is a colonial concept. This video, this recording is the most sacred thing on the planet.
Wedge Naj.
Thank you, Naj. And thank you, Alana Lee, for sharing that part. It speaks so many to the many layers that we carry. I just want to quickly say that I think this day, this time together, is very telling. There are many days when I sit and have my first cup of coffee and I think about things that are happening in the nation around us on Turtle Island and the other Indigenous nations. And I can tell you with all honesty that some days it's so incredibly difficult to be in my skin as an Indigenous woman and to hear and to pray for all the atrocities that are still happening today. It's very tiring to be us, to be Indigenous. There are good things. There are many good things. We're seeing much things that are moving ahead. And it's important to say this today because of the audience, again, that we're speaking with. At 60 years ago, and before that, just with me, myself, I was in that system that you work with. And it's the brokenness that happens right in that instant. If you can just remember that, just remember as you walk into care or do anything in your line of work, that there's a seed of what's happening. There's a seed of pain in that individual that you're working with that connects to either a mother, a grandmother, a father, a grandfather. It could be, it's all connected for us. And it's not just an individual that you're seeing that could seem, hopeless or can't help themselves, or there's so much more than that. All those roots that we're coming from are all there if they haven't had a chance or an opportunity to begin that healing, to know that they're valuable, that they have some value. And one thing that Fyre said within this webinar today, she spoke so clearly, and she said that our lives, the gift of our life is a power. It's a gift. It's a gift for us to be here. And somehow, when we end up in your hands, it's because something is broken. And if you could just remember that. And I know I sympathize and I pray for you, and I'll continue to keep all social workers in my prayers, because I know your responsibilities to what you're doing, your profession it's so needed for you to have respite and to have self-care. And I hope this component here can be a part of the self-care that you're going to be able to use for yourself. And just the last thing is, when we look at our Dr. Fyre Graveline, who created this podcast yesterday in the midst of huge crisis in her own family, you can see the energy and the courage and the strength that it gives her, that she can still stand and give us this teaching. So with that, I just want to begin now to close this space. And again, I light our sacred medicines, and I ask you now to join me. And I ask you all let's bring our minds together as one and offer a prayer right now for all the social workers that go out and do this very much needed work, that it seems to me to be a bridge between all of these oppressive situations that happen. And let these bridges be good bridges, Creator. We ask that those bridges be directional, so that the social workers that arrive come with a good heart to the best of their ability. And we also offer prayers now for all of the women that are struggling at this time again. Hi.
I am beyond grateful. And many of you know that I am on medical leave, technically, but I came because I knew that this would be the medicine that my soul needed, even before I knew that it was the medicine that my soul needed, when I had the opportunity to even learn of you. And I am so grateful for today and for this important start to the decolonization that our planet needs. Otherwise, we will go extinct. And as I recover from gender affirming surgery in the light of organized hatred against me, that reminds me of the intergenerational trauma of my ancestors who, my grandfather was murdered in Auschwitz, and my father was hidden as a child, and I am transitioning at this very moment. The healing that I am learning from you is deeply sacred, and I am so grateful to you for sharing it with all of our social workers. And this is why we have changed our professional development requirements to mandate vicarious trauma work, to mandate diversity work, to mandate the truth and reconciliation work, to mandate social justice activism and advocacy and action as part of being a licensed social worker, a registered social worker with the Nova Scotia College of Social Workers, as we work on decolonizing ourselves, our practice, and this world that we share as we enter into the most sacred spaces, homes where children are being abused by parents or guardians who are entrusted with their care and instead are harming them. The deep moral distress of our social workers who are trying to work in systems that are set up to cause them to fail. Thank you for bringing healing to all of us. And I send healing back to you all, and Fyre Jean, to you and your family as you deal with your medical emergencies. In the midst of our brokenness, the healing and sacredness that you have shared with us is so profound. I will spend the rest of my life meditating on this meditation. Thank you.